Welcome to What a Creep, the show with Margot Donohue and Sonia Mansfield, talking about creeps from the past to the present.
This is your quick guide to the biggest creeps, jerks, assholes, and losers, the best of the worst.
From two nice ladies who want the world to be a little less creepy. Welcome back to What a Creep. This is Margot Donohue, and my cohort in creepitude, as always, is the amazing Sonia Mansfield. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. We hung out this week in New York.
We did. It's so weird to see you on Zoom when I'm so used to seeing you in person.
She came to Brooklyn for my book party. She was actually in my neighborhood. Her hotel was in my neighborhood. We got to hang out. We went to Coney Island. It was super awesome.
Yep.
We'll talk about that more in our bonus app, but
yes,
as always, it's amazing to see you. And
yeah, it was so fun. We hugged awkwardly long.
But we wanted to, what we're going to be talking about today, like I said, I had a book party and we were talking about the Watcher on Netflix, and I have a connection to what's going on, but I can't say who, right? I got to keep a cone of silence. I've been threatened. I said it was a cone of silence, but I know somebody who knows somebody about that series. So we're going to be talking about actually the real creep, which is John List of Westfield, New Jersey.
Can't wait.
So we're going to be talking about the show, what that stuff is about, and then the original creep of Westfield, New Jersey. But if this is your first time listening, if we sound a little sleepy, we've both a little sleep deprived this week.
I might be a little jet lagged, maybe.
Perhaps.
A little, perhaps. That's okay, though.
What we do every week is we pick a creep from the past or the present. I'm Margot, she's Sonia. Sonia's on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast, and we challenge the other person to come up with a non-creep at the end of the show so you don't leaving feeling terrible about the state of the world. We do have a basic Facebook page, but we're much more active in our Facebook group. You do need to answer 3 questions to join the group. Occasionally an asshole sneaks in, but we take care of it.
Every once in a while,
which is whatever. We could deal with it. But we do have a private Facebook group. We're a little more interactive there, much more interactive there. But you can also find us on Twitter at CreepPod, because somebody had What a Creep on Twitter for over 10 years and never used it.
Creep.
And now there's a creep
I believe
that
that
owns it.
I'm like, I believe that is Elon Musk's Twitter.
Ay, ay, ay.
Creep. We did an episode on him. Go back and find it. He's a creep.
Yes. And we're also on Instagram at What a Creep Podcast. And we have an old-timey email, whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. You can send us your suggestions for creeps and non-creeps. And also, if you would like some stickers, we'd be happy to send them to you. Wherever you want on the planet of Earth, we will send them out to you. Whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. Sonia, do you want to tell them a little bit about our website?
Yes. And I also want to mention that, yes, we know a creep owns Facebook and Instagram too.
Yeah.
Okay. So we get it. We get it. Our website is not run by a creep. It's run by us. And it's at whatacreeppodcast.com. And it's everything you ever wanted to know about our show, but we're afraid to ask. It has links to all of our episodes. And in those episodes are links to all of our show notes, because we source everything that we're talking about. We're not just pulling it out of our ass. We're not just making it up.
Are you sure, Sonia?
I don't know. Maybe I do a little bit, but no. We source everything, and we do pay for a lot of those sources too. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. There is a link to our merch shop. You can get t-shirts and tote bags and journals and all kinds of fun things. I really am going to add a new design called The High Road Can Get Fucked. I've been brainstorming it and like screwing around in my little design programs, so I will get it up there soon. They make great gifts, just saying.
She just said she'll get it up soon.
And there's also a link to our Patreon page. Want to tell them about that?
I certainly do, Sonia. So our first...
Certainly.
Our first 4 seasons of the show are on our Patreon wall. We also put out 2 bonus episodes a month. We usually get that second one in right at the last day of the month, which we will this month. It'll be Halloween, so it'll be Halloween themed for sure.
Spooky.
It'll be spooky. We also we have a newsletter that goes out, and Sonia's in charge of that, and she does a great job because she's wicked clever and smart.
Thank you.
Super
I try.
smart. Also, we want to let you know that, look, if money's tight, we totally understand that. If you could just leave us a few stars or a review wherever you get your podcast. I want to thank the following: Craig with a K and 2 R's from Canada for leaving us 5 stars in Apple Podcasts.
Thank you.
I love everything about this podcast. Such great information. It makes me feel good about myself. Well, thank you so much.
Woo!
But we also been doing very well with Good Pods. We've been doing super well on their lists. And on Spotify, Sonia, people have been leaving 5 stars. And lots of you have been doing that. Thank you, thank you. Forgot to mention, at the party, we met one of our listeners, Lori.
I wrote it down. I wanted to make sure that we mentioned Lori too, because Lori made us bags. And I love my bag so much. I couldn't stop talking about it. She was probably like, okay, that's enough. But like, I really, really love that bag. I brought it around all around Coney Island with me the next day with my kid. I just it's so cute. I love it.
And the linings of the bag were different. With Sonia, it had dogs, and with mine, it had cats because we're both animal lovers. And mine, I don't know if she gave us. She works for Starbucks. We both got coffee, or did you get coffee? I got coffee.
Yeah.
And she gave me wine from her region. And girl, I opened it up as soon as I got home from the party because I was dehydrated and hungry and wired and tired. So, Lori, thank you so much.
I'm opening mine tonight.
Yes, so it's delicious. Just so you know, it's Cabernet Sauvignon.
I can't wait.
But
nice.
It made me realize, like, we need to do, when we get a little more active in the world, I need to go out by you on the West Coast. And
I would love that.
we should do some sort of meetups, or
That would be super fun.
Or I need you to come back out to New York. So we need to
No.
make we do need to make that happen. We will make that happen. We also are in touch with the ladies from All Killa No Filla. They're both on tour right now, but we're trying to make something happen for you in the new year. So fingers crossed, legends.
That's exciting.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna make it happen. Let's party.
Yeah.
All right, that's all the good stuff from the top of the show. Are we ready, Sonia? This is a New Jersey-sized episode.
I'm ready.
Okay. Let me take it from here. Our creep today is John List. It's also, I wrote, creepy Westfield, New Jersey. New Jersey has a creepy history. I think we've talked about this before. There's like this creepy creature that's like in the swamps of New Jersey. My brother John believed in it. The devil, the New Jersey devil.
That was in an episode of What We Do in the Shadows.
What We Do in the Shadows with the big dick.
So it's so funny.
There's a lot of like creepy New Jersey. I think it's like Weird New Jersey or something. There's like these websites devoted to it. This is a town, it's called Westfield, New Jersey, and it's 45 minutes outside of Manhattan. New Jersey's actually very beautiful. I mean, people make fun of it, and like there's the Sopranos, there's Atlantic City, there's things you could say about that, Trenton, whatever. Well, that's new. Yeah. But there's actually beautiful sections that are very pastoral, and they're beautiful homes, stately homes. And I want to talk about a town called Westfield that has been overrun with tourists lately. And it's because they want to check out the real home that is featured in the Netflix series, The Watcher, which it's a true-ish story of the Broaddus family. And
I'm only like 3 episodes in.
Right.
So
It's
true-ish, truth adjacent.
Truthiness. It's got some truthiness to it, as Colbert used to say. At the time that we're recording this, it's the end of October in 2022. It's been on like the #1 spot on Netflix all over the world. People are obsessed with the show. It's got Jennifer Coolidge, Bobby Cannavale. It's got cool, sexy people. It's weird. It's got all those touches that we like. It's not rooted in that much reality, being my point.
Got it.
Okay. So it's the story, it's a telling of the Broaddus family, who was a real family that moved there. And they bought this home, and it's a husband and wife, and they had 3 kids under the age of 10. And the husband was from Maine, from like a working class town. The wife was from a little bit more prosperous background, but they buy this house in Jersey for like $900,000, and it was like the top of their budget. And as they're moving in and they're updating it, and the home had been around over 100 years, they get these letters in the mail, and it's somebody basically saying, I know the history of your house, and I am watching you. They say 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now. As it approaches its 110th birthday, I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s, and my father watched it in the 1960s. It is now my time. They haven't moved in yet.
Dude, they have apps for that now. You don't need to do this.
Right. Do you know, it's 2018, by the way. Do you know the history of the house? Do you know what lies within the walls of 657 Boulevard? Why are you here?
It's asbestos.
I will find out. The person calls themselves the Watcher. The family tries to sell the house, and they basically, they get a few letters. They never find out who it is. It's been a few years now, a number of years. And the Westfield police were like, we've tried everything. We've no stone unturned. Turns out,
we tried
everything.
We tried everything. We tried sitting here. We tried twiddling our thumbs. We tried turning
running
our
up
backs
to people.
to you.
Did you do it? No. Okie dokie. Like Tommy Boy. Okay.
They're really, really good at their jobs. Really good.
And the thing is that this poor family, like it was, like I said, it's at the very top of their budget. It was like $6,000 a month they had to come up with, like, to pay for this house, and the kids, and it's really good schools, really nice area. And it was stressful. They're trying to update it, and they're trying to live their lives, and there's this creep sending them notes. They eventually sell the house to someone in the town, and they move to a smaller place in the town. And then the word gets out about them, and the New York Magazine does a story about them. And then it becomes this thing like, are they lying, or are they telling the truth? Did it really happen, or are they just looking for attention? And it really happened. They aren't looking for attention, but the police were never able to find out. And then apparently the police have been going around. They finally have DNA swab, and they believe it's a female that licked the envelope. And so they're going around to the neighbors and taking DNA swabs, and a few people refused to do it, but the cops couldn't say who they were. So if you live in Westfield, people are kind of like, who is it? Who did it? That kind of shit.
Okay.
The TV show really goes off the rails. I mean, it's a wild ride if you really know about the history of the town. This is not how they play it out in the show. But Got it. Okay.
No spoilers.
The murderer John List, he is a man who is a family annihilator. He killed his family in 1971 in Westfield, New Jersey, and then just took off and was on the lam for 18 years. He's the true, real creep of Westfield, New Jersey. We're going to be talking about him. Okay. And my trigger warnings are murder, family annihilator, and I'm trying to get my mouse to work, and it's just being an asshole. Oh, here we go. Sources: the Westfield, New Jersey Wikipedia, John List Wikipedia, Yahoo Life, Good Housekeeping, The Cut Magazine Follow-Up, People Magazine. We love our People Magazine. People Magazine's Fact versus Fiction, NewJersey.com, AllThat'sInteresting.com, CrimeMagazine.com. There's a John List Confession, And then there's and that's somebody reading that he gave a confession. He left it behind, and he left it for his pastor. And it's somebody reading the thing, and it's like 5 pages long, and it's batshit. So there's a link there if you want to for that. And then there's a Morbid Academy. It's a YouTube channel. I have a video there. Okay.
Really looking forward to that Ryan Murphy update of this story, and they'll call it like, "You just made the list," and it's played by like some hot, sexy dude.
You know who?
Him.
You know who did play him? I think it was Robert Blake. Robert Blake, Beretta,
fucking Robert Blake,
who fucking probably killed his wife. Yeah.
Yeah, fucking. That's some good casting. Fucking creep. He's on our list.
He is on our list. John Emil List was born September 17th, 1925. He's from Bay City, Michigan. He is of German parents who were German immigrants, and they were very strict Lutherans. And apparently the father didn't like him very much. And you'll love this, his mother smothered him. Because if it's not one thing, it's your mother. They put a lot of shame on him. This is how you dress. This is how you act. These are good people. These are bad people. A lot of that shit.
Got it.
He serves in World War II, and he becomes an accountant.
He serves on our side. Yeah.
Yes. Duh.
Just checking. Just checking. Just checking.
He does. He serves on our side. He studies accounting. He serves in Korea. He comes back, and he meets a woman in Virginia, and her name is Helen List. And he's a very awkward man. He's super shy. He's stiff. He makes Al Gore look like he's Jim Carrey. This guy is stiff.
Okay.
And he tells people that I'd like to sell life insurance. Like, that's where the money's at. And he has no sense of humor. He talks with no inflection in his voice. He's super judgmental of people. He tells people they're going to hell. He's like super religious.
That's a great sales pitch. You're going to hell. Get life insurance.
You might as well set up your family now. Yeah, he's very, very awkward.
Okay.
So he meets this woman. Her name is Helen, and her husband dies in the war, and she has a daughter, Brenda. And she tells him that her husband gave her syphilis, but that it isn't contagious. And then then within a month of their dating, she says she's pregnant, so they get married right away. And then she says that she lost the baby. And they start off like, like what is, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, y'all can't see. I kind of cocked my head to the side like a dog hearing a strange noise. Huh? Like, I have syphilis, not contagious.
Right.
Pregnant. No, I'm not.
Right. She had and the kind of syphilis that she had, like, it affected her brain, and it looked like she had. My grandmother had problems with her lymph nodes and with her thyroid, so she had like the bug eye thing, like you could see over the years her eyes got bigger and bigger.
I had that thyroid disease too, and it also changed the shape of my eyes.
Right.
But,
yeah, when you see pictures of her, you can see it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's treatable now. It's very, but
for sure.
Back then it wasn't very treatable.
Correct.
And it kind of bummed her out, and she had other health ailments, and she probably had some deep mental health ailments, but she was this widow with a little girl, and I think she just wanted to get married. Yeah. And this guy's like, I'm an accountant. I'm always going to have a job. And turns out he has to get a new job every few years because he just keeps getting fired. And
yeah, because he sucks.
He sucks. He's not very personable. He's very fastidious. He's all about the rules, excuse me. He's not quite like, I want my swing-leg stapler. I got to have my stapler, and I got to...
No, but he's like that prick that's like hanging around the lunchroom, and you go in the break room and you go in there and you're like, ugh. And you
That
just
guy.
like want to, yeah, and you just want to like eat your food in peace. And he's calling you a sinner. And he puts fish in the microwave and he sucks.
He's very awkward, and he goes from like job to job, and she starts drinking, which I probably would too. It's the 50s and 60s, and I'm married to this Yutz, and they have kids. And eventually they wind up in Westfield, New Jersey, and he works for a bank. And he works his way up to vice president at a bank. And he
Okay.
makes a decent amount of money. And he wants to buy his wife a really nice house. He wants to be showy. So it's 1966, and they spend 50 grand on this huge home, 19 rooms, which is, I know. It's worth 2 million. The property's worth 2 million. The home doesn't exist anymore, but yeah, 50 grand.
This generation wants to know why we don't all own homes
Oh,
because
yeah.
they're not $50,000 anymore.
Well, he was also a veteran, so they got, some breaks with their loans and things like that. But he also, his mother, the smotherer, was a widow by this time. And he had 4 kids, including Brenda. And the 4 kids wanted their own. His wife wanted them all to have their own room. They wanted to join the country club. They wanted to look good. And he's a vice president. He should look like he's a vice president. So she pressures him to get the house. And his mother says, I'll give you the money to get the house, like to put the down payment. But here's the deal. I have to move in. And he says, okay, you can have like the attic apartment or whatever. And she's like 80 or something. And she's got to go up and down all those goddamn stairs. And she and his wife don't get along. And it's the late 60s.
Sounds like a recipe for success.
Oh, it's a fucking joy. He is a Sunday school teacher. His wife is an alcoholic. She doesn't believe in God anymore. And I can't imagine, like, I would either. It's not a great situation.
No.
Brenda, the oldest, her first child, becomes pregnant when she's 16. He kicks her out. She actually marries the guy. He's like 18 or 19, and they're pretty okay. I think they stayed together.
All right.
But he had a side to him. When he got angry, he would just go dark. He would just be like stern and very, you're going to hell and you're embarrassing us.
Yeah, kicking out an unwed pregnant teenager is totally what Jesus would do.
Right.
Literally, his mother was the pregnant teenager.
Exactly.
If you believe that sort of thing.
Right. And it was like an embarrassment to him and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
So Brenda's gone. And ultimately, this saves Brenda's life because she gets out of there. So he has 2 boys and a daughter. And it's John, Frederick, and Patty. And Patty is very pretty, and she's into acting, and she's in all the plays, and the boys are really into sports, and they're actually really popular, and they have a ton of friends. They love Westfield. They love high school. It's the late 60s. They're growing their hair long. They're listening to the Beatles. They're getting high. They're having fun. And he's freaking the fuck out because he's like, they're going to go to hell. They're on the wrong path. On top of this, he just can't save money. Everything costs money. The upkeep on this house is falling apart. And he is doing terrible at his job because he can't get along with people. And eventually he gets fired. And he breaks down in tears. He really has a breakdown.
All right.
He tries to get another job. He can't find another job. So what he starts doing, and by the way, a stiff guy, he went around the neighborhood. When he moved into the house, the neighbors it's a friendly town. It's a small town. People came over and did the thing like you bring a casserole and say, hey, welcome to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Does your daughter babysit? We've got 2 kids. People do that shit.
Yeah.
And one guy came over with a casserole and was like that. And he just took the food and says, we don't socialize, and just walked in.
Damn.
Yeah.
And don't take the food.
Right.
No, sorry. The food comes with socializing.
Right. Exactly. And then one time they said he was so stiff, he would mow the lawn in a suit and tie. And he had like the horn-rimmed glasses. Just a Poindexter.
He's very, very formal. It's a formal affair.
It's a formal right.
Trimming the lawn. Yeah.
He starts taking the train, he gets dressed, gets his briefcase, goes on the train, takes it 2 stops, and then gets off the train, and then he'll sit in the station and read a newspaper all day, and then take the train back home.
So he was pretending he had a job.
Right. His mother had a couple of $100,000, so he's managing her money, and $200K in 1970 is a lot of money.
Right.
But it's not enough. Like with all of their bills and everything, he's squandering it. And I don't know if he's like gambling. I don't know if it's stocks. I don't know if there's just bills. I don't know. But he's losing money. He's freaking out, and he's just panicking. The wife is drunk. She's not going to church. His mother's a pain in the ass. She yells, she's giving him a hard time. The teenagers are all going to hell for all their different reasons. Patty was like hanging out with one of her friends after hours one night, wasn't even doing any drugs or drinking or anything, just hanging out literally. And the cops picked her up and they took her to the station. But it was just to kind of scare the kids. They literally said to him, she wasn't doing anything, but we're just trying to teach him a lesson kind of thing. And her father basically said, "You're going to hell, I can tell." And Patty said, "I think my dad's trying to kill me. I think my dad will kill me." And he said to the kids, "When you die, do you want to be cremated or buried?"
Not creepy at all.
Right.
Super normal thing for your dad to say to you.
He would do that. He would say things like that. And he planned in October of 71, he came up with the idea of, I think I'm just going to leave. I'm going to kill my family and I'm going to take off and just start over. And this way, he says, if I kill myself, I don't have enough insurance to take care of everything, right? And there's the shame that it'll leave my family, and I won't get to heaven. If I kill them, they'll all go to heaven. I won't have these money problems anymore, and maybe God will forgive me one day because I did.
LOL.
Right?
Yes, God will forgive you.
Right.
What the fuck?
Right.
How is that the easier option? Just start looking for another job.
He's just a total narcissist. I mean, this guy, he can't do anything else. I mean, he only wants to be an accountant, and he wanted to be a life insurance salesman. Like he doesn't want to do anything else. And
so this is just easier. It's just easier to fully murder your family.
He had no record of ever hurting I don't know if he ever killed anybody in the war. I don't have any evidence of that. I mean, anyway, so he planned to do it for Halloween and then chickened out. And then a week later, he came up with the plan, and he only had $200 left in his name. So it was like, got to do it. So he cancels the mail. He cancels the milk delivery. He tells the school his kids are going to be visiting a sick relative in North Carolina for a few weeks. They'll come back after the new year. And he sends the kids off to school. And the first thing he does is he shoots his wife in the back of her head as she's at her kitchen table having coffee. Then he goes upstairs and his mother's still asleep, and he shoots her in the head and kills her.
Jesus.
And then he tried to pick her up and drag her, but she was too heavy. So he just left her on the floor up there. He takes his wife and he drags her to the living room. And then he waited for his two oldest kids to come home. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's just, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he kills them. He says that he kills them with just one shot and they don't see anything and they don't notice. He says they didn't see anything. They didn't feel anything. It was, whatever. And then the youngest one, I believe John was the youngest. He was at a soccer match. So he drives to the soccer match, watches the game, the kid comes home, they go back into the car. As they're driving home, he starts shooting his son in the car.
Jesus.
The kid
Christ.
fights back, and he has to shoot him several times. And then he takes him into the house. It's bizarre.
This is he could say whatever he wants about the older boys, like, or the older children, sorry. There's a very good chance that they knew he did this, like, as they were dying.
Yeah.
And this one did too. And that is the part that's like a punch in the fucking gut, because our children depend on us to keep them safe.
Yes.
And love them and do the right things. And you're not prepared for that.
Right.
And let me rephrase. In most cases, you're not expecting that. And like, what a fucking monster.
Yeah. Yeah. In between all of this, by the way, he sat at the kitchen table and made himself a sandwich because he was hungry.
That's a fucking monster.
Yeah.
That's a monster who does shit like that.
He made a sandwich. He goes to the bank. He closes out his mother's bank account, takes whatever cash is left. He takes the son home, the youngest, kills him. And then he puts them all in sleeping bags and he arranges them in a circle and covers their heads. He also takes every single picture in the house and he cuts out his face, in every single picture in the house. So the cops wouldn't have a picture of him to put on the wires. He puts on music over the speakers of the house and it's Christian music. And
like being murdered wasn't punishment enough. Now they have to listen to
that creepy shit when they walk in.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like this hymnal music, right? And then he leaves the lights on. He gets in his car and he drives to JFK Airport and he just leaves his car in the long parking, that whatever that's called. Yeah, like the monthly parking, whatever that's called. And he just takes off. And a month later, one of the neighbors noticed like the light bulbs are going out one at a time. And one of her teachers came by the house, her drama teacher, who said that Patty was really talented and was going to be in a play. And he's like, there's no way she would have not been in this play. Like, this was all she cared about. And like, where is she? How come I can't get in touch with her? But nobody would answer the door. So finally they call the cops and they get in there and they see everything that happened. They see this horrible sight. And it's Westfield in 1971. Like, suburban, small town, like under 10,000 people.
They don't have a lot of crime, I suspect.
No, and it's very, like I said, sleepy little town. He takes off, and he's gone. And the police and the FBI, they just lose sight of him, and he's just another white guy that just takes off in the world. He's middle aged. He's 46. And he just disappears.
Wow.
Funny thing about people is they have habits. Mm-hmm. You can leave your life. You could change your hair. I don't think you would change your hair.
I totally wouldn't.
I wouldn't either. They would catch me in 2 seconds. I have all my habits. My friend Suzanne and I were joking once. Like, it would take somebody about a week to figure me out. And like, oh, this is what she does, this, and this. Like, this.
Oh, yeah. They'd find me at a movie theater.
Yeah, exactly. We all have things we do. You walk your pets, or you have like, the music you like, or the movie theater you go to, the jobs you like to do. This guy is an accountant. This guy wears his glasses in a particular way, wears his hair a particular way, and he's religious. LOL. So he always belongs to a church. And first he goes out to Denver, Colorado, and he takes on the name of Robert Clark, which is somebody that he went to college with. He just takes somebody's name. And you could buy like a social security number and just start over. He gets married and
oh my God,
just starts living a life. And he's super quiet. And people who meet him are like, he was kind of weird, but he's also kind of nice. He was the guy at church that, sang the hymnals and just was doing his thing and didn't have a care in the world.
So he was nicer.
Yeah, he didn't have a care in the world.
This is like his 2.0 was like nicer.
He
wasn't a
stiff
prick.
He was in a midlife crisis, Sonia. That's all it was.
Dude, then just cheat on your wife like everyone else.
Like
you don't need to
everybody else.
fucking murder people.
Yeah. Just leave.
This guy.
Yeah. He eventually winds up in Virginia. And I believe they split up, but he's hanging out. And then in the late 80s, there's a show called America's Most Wanted.
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
on Fox. Sunday nights, 7 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, for some reason, a hugely popular show. I didn't watch it because even though I love true crime, it gave me such anxiety. Because it was, who was the host? John
Walsh.
Walsh. Because what happened to his son is just so,
Yeah.
horrifying.
Yeah. There's his son, Adam, was kidnapped and murdered. It's really awful. And they made a very upsetting TV movie about it in the 80s.
Yeah,
right?
in the
I think.
80s.
Yeah, super upsetting. Really awful. But that show, I want to say it was on Friday or Saturday nights, and it was a weekly thing, and they caught a lot of people.
They were very successful.
Yes.
And I think it was on a couple of nights a week after that. It was hugely successful. And they did everything from bank robbers to men that left their families and murderers and cold cases. And they would go through the FBI's most wanted list. So they really, like you said, it was kind of sleazy sometimes, and it was super scary. And
yeah.
What they did with John List is, and this story was told on Unsolved Mysteries. I mean, he was a story they would pass around every few years.
Yeah.
Where's John? And John List looks just like any basic white guy. He's bald, kind of a
Well, actually,
exactly.
Well, actually, you're a sinner.
And they would describe him as he's kind of gentlemanly and he was very smart. And they always play up his credits because he's a white man that did this.
He wasn't smart.
Oh, by the way, the FBI, one of their failings was they never really wanted to approach churches because they just didn't feel comfortable doing that. And they would have caught him in 2 seconds because that's one place he really liked to hang out. That's where he liked to fit in. Right. That's where he really, really hung out. Okay, so the show airs, and it's June 1st, 1989. And what they do is there's somebody that they bring on the show, and they're like, we're going to make a bust, and it's going to be of John List, and it's like paper mache, and it's
okay.
Not great, I don't think.
Yeah.
It looks kind of janky to me. It would not pass the muster nowadays. I mean, but for the time, it was like, oh my God, it was like a big reveal. Right. You're like, oh, all these years, 19 years later, we're going to show you what he looks like now. And he looked like anybody. They got a dozen calls right away.
Yeah.
And it's from this trailer park in Virginia. And they're all like, oh, yeah, we know Robert. He's like an accountant and he's really quiet. And we all know him.
They're like, it's probably not him then.
And one of them was his ex-wife, second wife, excuse me. And her name was Dolores. And Dolores was like, I think that's my husband.
What a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
How bananas.
So they pick him up. They bring him in. He looks exactly the same, just older.
Yeah.
Dolores is like, outie. She's like, yeah, no. This is a deal breaker for me. Had no idea.
Red flag.
Red flag on the play.
Right here. Red flag. Waving my red flag. Red flag.
And she said, I had no idea. He never talked about it. I had no idea. And first he claims, wasn't me. But then they take...
It was some other mediocre white guy. And they were like, maybe.
They take his fingerprints and it matches. And it's like, dude, what are you even talking about? What are we even talking about here?
Someone else has my fingerprints.
His lawyers try to claim it's PTSD from his time serving in the war, mixed with middle age. He just had a midlife crisis, Sonia. He just snapped. That's all. He gets a life sentence.
Yeah.
He does these interviews. One of them was a famous one he did with Connie Chung, who had a show for a little while. Mm-hmm. And she was the one who said, so you killed your wife, and then you bring her into, and then you went upstairs and killed your mother, and then you brought your wife into the living room, and you're waiting for your kids to come home, and then you just made a sandwich. And he said, I was hungry. Like, he has no emotion in his voice, no regret.
Fucking sick bastard.
Sick bastard. He keeps saying over and over again, like, this was the best thing for them. He didn't want to go on welfare. He didn't want to downsize. He didn't think he could sell the house.
Yes.
He thought he
just
was like in
murdering
debt.
people is always the best option.
Right. So this motherfucker dies, lives to be 82.
Not fair. Not fair.
Not fair. It's totally not fair. So do you want to hear the kicker to all this?
Yeah, I do.
Well, two things. The house, you can't visit the house. Don't go to, by the way, like we said, we met somebody who's in on this Westfield thing, the original thing we were talking about.
Yeah.
People are going to Westfield and being really annoying, trying to find the houses and stuff.
Oh, don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that. If you're going to go spend a lot of money on the local businesses, but just don't go to Westfield, because don't look for the John List house, because the John List house burned to the ground like a couple of years after this happened. And it was arson, and nobody knows who did it or why they did it. But something that the cops found out that John List didn't know was he had a ballroom in his house. This house was so fucking big, it had a ballroom.
So the house so big, there was a room in it that he never visited and knew about.
No, he knew about it, but this is a thing. He had a Tiffany ceiling. Like, they had like this lights up in the ceiling. And there used to be a time like Tiffany lamps were no big deal. Like in the 20s and 30s, you would see them in movies. They look chintzy, right? And then now years later, they're expensive. They were worth, the Tiffany lighting that he had up in the ceiling, it was worth about $250,000. It would have solved all of his problems.
He wouldn't have done it anyway.
No, he's an asshole. He wouldn't have done it anyway.
No.
But that's the big irony. Like, it was right there in the fucking ceiling if he had looked up.
Fuck that guy.
But that's our creep this week. John List.
Good job, Margot. What a fucking asshole.
Right?
He didn't die soon enough.
He had like pneumonia or something.
I hope he suffered.
Hope he coughed a lot.
I hope he coughed a lot and peed his pants.
I hope they didn't have Depends.
Fuck that guy, seriously. What a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Good job. I've
you.
never heard this story before.
Yep.
But now I'm very curious to finish The Watcher.
Yep. Yeah, the last episode in particular, they bring a character in the show, and his name's John Graff, and he comes by and visits Bobby Carnival in one scene, and then I'm like, wait, why are they bringing him in? But it's because they're mixing time and all that stuff.
Oh,
It's bizarre.
okay. But. Also, Barbie Carnival getting hotter. The older he gets, the hotter he gets. What the fuck?
With that voice and those eyes.
Yeah. Seriously.
Sorry.
Like back in the day, I'm like, whatever. And now I'm like, what? Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's true.
He could get it.
He could get it. Call me.
Hey-o.
You ready? Should we take a break and then we'll talk about someone who's not a creep?
Sounds good.
By the way, I saw there's a new season of Unsolved Mysteries.
I didn't like it last night. That was the...
Oh, yeah?
It was another UFO one. I'm like, I'm sick of the UFO ones. They're all the same.
I think I'll pass then.
Yeah, it was like it's a guy in Vegas that was killed by the mob, and it's like, you're never going to find who did it when it's the mob.
All right.
and then there's like a UFO one. I'm like, and the UFO ones are always like, they're staring up at the sky. I saw some light.
The first season was so good.
I know. I know.
How about some updates on season 1? I'd take that.
Let's get the one that fell through the ceiling and they can't figure it the fuck out.
Right?
Let's get that one.
Damn. All right. Well, I won't move that to the top of the list. All right. Are you ready?
More than I've ever been, Sonia.
Okay. Let's do it. My friend, do you know who Charles Addams is?
I do.
For those who don't know, he is the creator of the Addams Family, and he's originally from Westfield, New Jersey.
What?
What? There's a very extensive list of notable people from Westfield, and this is who I picked because it is almost Halloween. It feels very appropriate. So his work is shown in galleries and museums all over the world, but every October in Westfield, they hold a month-long celebration called Addams Fest. There's a masquerade ball, cemetery crawls, an exhibition that shows his cartoons and other artists that were like inspired by him.
How did we miss this, Sonia?
I know.
God damn it. We could get a lift out there.
So cool. So he was born January 7th, 1912. He was always kind of a dark kid. He played in graveyards as a child.
Oh, who hasn't?
He liked to, he had a sketchbook and he loved to like imagine what lied in those graves and would draw them in his sketchbook. At the age of 8, he got caught breaking into a creepy Victorian mansion that was near his home. This house would later become like kind of what he would use for the Addams Family comic strips. This sounds like someone who grew up really troubled, but in fact, he grew up in a very warm, supportive household. The only child of devoted parents. His father sold pianos. Like his mom was a stay-at-home mom. Addams actually in an interview once said, "It would be more interesting perhaps if I had a ghastly childhood." I love that he used the word ghastly. Chained to an iron bed and thrown a can of Alpo every day. But I'm one of those strange people who actually had a happy childhood.
I love that.
His father encouraged him to draw. He got really into it in high school. He drew for like the Student Literary Magazine. He attended Colgate University.
Yeah.
Not the toothpaste. And the University of Pennsylvania and the Grand Central School of Art in New York City. In 1932, he was still a student and he sold his first cartoon to the New Yorker.
His first?
His first. That was $7.50. He was still a student in college when he did that. He is one of those people that, like, his entire life, he made a career in the arts. Like, he went from college straight into illustrating for the New Yorker. Like,
that's
because it was
unbelievable.
Yeah, the New Yorker was just starting off at the time, and he like it just really took off. And I found a quote from his biographer, Linda Davis, who said he was in the New Yorker until the end. Like, till he died, he was making comic strips for the New Yorker. It afforded him a glamorous, sophisticated life. He had an apartment overlooking the MoMA sculpture garden. He drove really fancy cars. At one point, he dated Jackie Kennedy. Yeah, right?
Holy shit.
People loved Charles Addams. Like, Hitchcock was very obsessed with like him, and like he was always invited to like cool parties because they wanted to talk to him, because he had this very morbid like humor, but he seemed to be very nice, and apparently he was quite the ladies' man. Like, he was married a few times. From my reading, it sounds like maybe dude couldn't keep it in his pants. That's not my favorite thing about him, but he did create the Addams Family. So if you do know the Addams Family, you probably know it from the sitcom. It was only on for 2 seasons, but it ran in syndication forever. And then there were the live action movies, which I love.
Yes, me too.
There's a Broadway musical. There's a pinball machine, which I'm mentioning this because I fucking love the Addams Family pinball. And when I see it, I will play it. And the Alamo Draft House here in San Francisco has it. So I'm always like, oh, yes. Like, I love it. And there's a new, like, Wednesday Addams TV show that's coming to Netflix. Did it already come out? I don't think it did. It really should have. Feels very Halloween. But anyway, Charles Addams, he loved to have fun with his image. He decorated his Manhattan penthouse with like all this like medieval weapons and like he loved to host parties. He loved vintage cars. He loved animals. Twice he was married and divorced to these like they quote unquote raven-haired beauties that definitely look like Morticia Addams. And then his third wife was Marilyn T. Matthews, and they were married in a pet cemetery.
I love this guy.
And at Watermill, Long Island, that was in 1980, and they both wore black, and all the guests wore black. Like this,
I need to see the pictures.
Yeah. On September 29th, 1988, he died of a heart attack parked inside his car. And then, you know, his wife like was asked about it, and she said he's always been a car buff, so it was a nice way to go. She told the New York Times. And so he died in 88. She died in 2002. Both of their ashes were spread all over were scattered at the pet cemetery that they were married in.
Aww.
They had an estate together that they called the Swamp, which I think is again hilarious. And just like really soon on November 3rd, the Society of Illustrators, is going to induct him into their Hall of Fame. And if you haven't seen the old like Addams Family like comic strips, they're really good. Like
they're beautiful.
They're beautiful to look at. They're funny-ish. Like they're really funny. Like the show is funny. I think the Addams Family and the Munsters were both funny to me.
I love them.
I like that stuff. I love both the movies with Raul Julia and Angelica Houston. And it just seemed like he was just this like really funny, like smart, dark guy. And I love that he drew something like the Addams Family, where a lot of people connect to the Addams Family because they are, you know, what's the song is like they're kooky and they're spooky,
right.
They're blah, 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 you know, but also they are themselves and they're not ashamed of who they are. And I think that that's rad. Like that's something that people connect to. And of course there's a whole like goth community that worships the Addams Family because they're pretty fucking great. I get it. So that's our non-creep.
I
Charles
think that
Addams.
is such a perfect thing to end our show with, especially this time of year. Well done, Sonia.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing me in the direction of Westfield notables.
All right, Westfield, New Jersey, we've completed you. I hope we've done our job well. If you like the sound of our voices, we also co-host a show called Dorking Out. And Sonia, what are we going to be dorking out about next?
We're going to talk about The Dead Zone, which I don't think I've ever seen all the way through. So I'm really looking forward to this rewatch.
It's the movie.
Not the movie.
The movie with Christopher Walken.
Yes.
It's really amazing. It's super creepy. Can't wait to talk about that. Please follow us
be a good one.
On all the social media things that I talked about at the top of the show. We love it when you use the Annie Potts gift. We got one from Ghostbusters when you have ideas for creeps, also non-creeps. Always could use help with those.
Mm-hmm.
Support us on Patreon if you feel like it. If not, no worries. Leave us a review, subscribe, be awesome out there. Sonia, where can they find you?
You can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. Where can people find you, Margot?
You can find me at Brooklyn Fit Chick for Twitter and Instagram. My site is brooklynfitchick.com. I'm on TikTok at Margot Donahue. My book is called Filmed in Brooklyn. It's available on Kindle, I just found out. So,
nice.
Yeah, so wherever you get your podcast, wherever you get your books. In America, anyway, I know people around. Oh, Binksy just said on Google Books she was able to find my book. So hopefully you can find it out there, y'all. If you send me an email, if you buy the book, I can send you a sticker with my signature on it if you want to put it on your book. But anyway.
Oh my gosh, you are so smart. That's a great idea.
In the meanwhile, everyone, be safe. Have a great Halloween. Don't be a creep.
Thank you for listening to us talk about creeps. You can follow us at What a Creep Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
But don't follow us too closely.
You can email us your creepy stories at whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com.
But please keep your dick pics to yourself.